So my name is Dawn, and I have 6 children. Just had my 6th a week ago. I want to share the story about this last pregnancy because I feel like a lot of people are more interested in home births or possibly interested in a wild pregnancy, which I'll explain what that is in a minute. And I want to put my 2 cents out there because I just experienced it firsthand for myself over the last 9-10 months. And now I have this very healthy, sweet little 1-week-old little boy who is doing amazing. And I feel amazing, and I just want to put a positive experience out there. I think in looking back, there's only one thing. If I could change anything about this whole thing, there's only one thing I would do different. And I will explain that once I get to the end of the story because that's where it's relevant. So I had my last period. This is October 2025. I had my last period the beginning of December 2024. In February, I started to get nauseous and I started to have other symptoms. And so I took a pregnancy test and it got positive right away. And so I was about 8-9 weeks pregnant when I took the pregnancy test at the beginning of February. And I estimated my due date to be September 14th, which was 40 weeks after the first day of my last period. Me and my husband had decided early on that we did not want to see a doctor during the pregnancy because I have just had not good experiences with doctors while I've been pregnant. And so that was just a personal decision. This is not medical advice for you to not have a doctor. But I can testify that this was, I first started having babies when I was 25 and now I'm 43. This was the easiest pregnancy I have ever had. I went to a regular doctor, I went to a regular hospital, all of my other 5 pregnancies. So this was the least stressful. It was amazing. Amazing. I was willing, if something felt wrong or off, to go to the doctor if I needed to. I actually did end up going to the ER for another reason that had nothing to do with my pregnancy. So it's not like I'm totally against doctors. I just don't agree with a lot of things, and I don't want to get into that right now. But I just felt like this pregnancy, I just wanted to, because I'd already done it on my own. Sorry, I'd already done it with doctors 5 times. I knew the different tests they were going to run. I knew what they looked for. I knew the kick counts. I knew the symptoms to look for when things are off. And I knew that the doctors are there. We live in town. I can go get checked out and go to an OB or whatever if I really, really, really felt the need to. But I just never felt the need to about the pregnancy. Again, this was the easiest pregnancy. It was so stress-free. If you're thinking about not going to a doctor, or going to a doctor less, or just having a midwife, in my own experience, I cannot recommend you do it, but in my own experience, I would do this again in a heartbeat. It was wonderful. So stress-free, so amazing. And if we do have another child, I'm definitely going to do it again. In my other pregnancies, I had them tell me that, that I could get a membrane sweep, or they could, try to do things to early induce and things like that. Obviously, I didn't have that at all this time because I wasn't seeing a doctor. But I started to notice around 40 weeks that things were starting to progress on their own. I wasn't in labor or anything like that, but I started to have, I think it's called prodromal labor. I'm probably butchering that word, but kind of false labor. And before then, since I was 20 weeks pregnant, I had Braxton Hicks like every single day, multiple times a day. I don't ever remember having them this concentrated in my other pregnancies. This one was all the time. And the closer that I got to the delivery, the more I would have them. Just my stomach would tighten up, and I just kind of couldn't move around very well. It would kind of tug on my lungs a little bit, and then it would go away and I would be totally fine. I looked that up, and it pulling on your lungs and making it a little bit hard to breathe is totally normal, and lots of people experience that, so I just wasn't worried about it. Around 40 weeks, I started again having false labor. I would have really bad cramping, and it would come just like labor would come, like regularly, like every 5 to 10 minutes. And I was like, is this labor? I couldn't remember how it started before exactly. Now I remember, but the cramping wasn't labor. As soon as I would go to sleep, it would stop. And I remembered that with regular labor, with real labor, if you try to go to sleep, you cannot sleep during regular, like, real labor contractions. So anytime I would have something that seemed like it was labor and I wasn't sure, I would rest, and then it would go away, and I'd be like, oh, this isn't real labor. So that happened a lot, all of my 40th week. Getting into my 41st week, I lost my mucus plug. I had a bloody show, 2 totally different things. And after I had my lost my mucus plug, it was like every single day for like 4 or 5 days. I kept losing more. I kept having more bloody show. And so I knew I was starting to dilate in a face, and there's something happening down there. Nobody was checking me, no doctor or anything like that. But I just knew something's progressing. And of course, I'm having tons of these false labor contractions that are not going anywhere, and they're not consistent, and if I rest they go away, and so I knew those are probably helping things along too. So getting down to the last few days before I had the baby, we had the baby on Saturday, and the night before, I remember thinking, wow, this is a lot of discharge. Like, we thought maybe it'll come the next day. We're not sure. We didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. I had a gut feeling that it was a boy, because I've had a little boy in my heart for several years, even though I thought we were done having kids after our 5th one. I don't know why there was another little boy in there, but as soon as I found out I was pregnant, he wasn't in my heart anymore. And I just thought that was so funny. So this whole pregnancy, I thought it's a little boy, and it was right. That was just so special. But anyway, I thought I think I'm getting closer, because I'm having this like bloody show basically every day. And it wasn't like a lot of blood, just a little bit. But Saturday, me and my husband, we walked around at the dollar store. We went to Target. We just kind of got out of the house, and we're doing some fun things. And I started noticing that the little contractions that I was having they were really regular. And this started around like 11 o'clock in the morning. And around 12 o'clock, I thought, maybe I should start writing these down just in case that, this is labor. I wasn't sure. And I started charting. I'll pull it up on my phone so you can see what it looked like. So I don't know if you can see. I started charting what time it was, what time the next one was, and how many minutes. So they started out at 17 minutes, 10 minutes, 7 minutes. And then they got all the way down to 3 minutes, 4 minutes. But that's how I charted. And there's apps you can get to do it. But once it had been going pretty consistently for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm in labor, because they were getting progressively more like stronger and closer together. But like as you saw, they started out being 17 minutes apart, and 10 minutes apart, and 12 minutes apart, and 14 minutes apart. And I was just walking around at the stores, and me and my husband both thought it was so funny that we were walking around the dollar store and Target and talking, and everything's fine. Every once in a while I would just have to stop, because it's kind of hard to walk when you're having a contraction. We ran into the dollar store really quick, and I got in and out, checked out, getting some snacks for my kids. And back into the car before I hit a contraction that I felt so accomplished to do that. But while we were in Target, I had to stop like 3 times. It was kind of funny because it's a little bit of a bigger store. But anyway, so we got home from doing our little tiny date that we went on to just kind of walk around and do some things. And I started making some dinner for the kids, and I would have to stop. And I was like, I'm pretty positive. My poor kids and family, my husband, they were all in disbelief that it was actually real labor, because I had so many Braxton Hicks all the time, and I had so much false labor that they were just like, yeah, sure, you're in labor. Well, I'll believe it when I'll believe it when I see it. And, but just because I kept having to stop, and it just kept getting closer together, and they were kind of starting to hurt a little bit. And, I kind of would have to like lean on the counter and kind of breathe through it a little bit. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is actual labor. Because it's progressing, it keeps going no matter what I do. And I don't think I actually like laid down or anything, because I had plenty of energy. Oh, that's something else that happened in my 40th and 41st week. I started nesting. And I just suddenly, all of a sudden, got this burst of energy and cleaned multiple things, deep cleaned in my house. So that was another thing that suddenly happened, because I was really tired before and not sleeping super great. So it was amazing to have that burst of energy. Anyway, back to my Labor Day. So once I finally realized, okay, this is really labor, and it's starting to hurt, and they're getting really close together. I think they were getting to be about 3 minutes apart. We came into this room, actually, and we started getting things set up. I had some shower curtains, some plastic shower curtains. We had puppy pads. We had towels. We had a placenta bowl. Just all the little things that we needed to get ready for the birth. And so we got that all ready really quick. We couldn't have it ready before because this is a bedroom, and we weren't sure the labor was actually happening. Just having that sitting around wasn't going to work, so we just had to throw it together super fast. Anyway, so we set up 2 different areas, one on the floor, one on the bed, just in case I wanted to move around. I got my birthing ball that I could lean on, and I had my little, I'll have to go grab it. I had a little Pokeball thing you can hold. I got it from Amazon. Maybe I'll link that down in the description below. But you just squeeze it when you're having a contraction. It's kind of like a birthing comb, and it digs into your hand and causes pain, but it kind of helps your brain kind of disconnect from the pain of the contraction. And I gotta tell you, it worked really, really well for me. I really appreciated it. All right, this is it. I just held it like this and just squeezed, and it would just push into my hand, and it's enough pain that for the first few days afterwards, I don't know if you can see it. You can see like the line right there. That might be a new one because I just squeezed it. But I had all these little red lines on my hand, red dots on my hand from this squeezing it so hard. But man, it helped. I would never ever go through birth again without one of those. Loved it. It's like 3D printed. Anyway, so we came in here. Let's look at my time. Oh man, it looks like we came in here around 3 minutes started at 4:13. So 5, 6, 7. So we were in this room possibly for like 3 hours. And kind of with the stronger contractions. So anyway, what happened was I just kind of moved around to different positions. I was seated. I laid down. When I laid down, my contractions actually started getting farther apart and slowing down. And so my husband was like, you probably shouldn't lay down. You should probably sit up right and get these going. And I was like, okay. But it felt so good to lay down on my side. I did not want to get up. But I would sit on my ball. I was kneeling on the floor. I kneeled on the bed. I just tried all these different things. I was standing up. And what I ended up doing was kneeling down the most and leaning on the ball, or kneeling on the bed, leaning on the ball. And when I was sitting on the ball, I I thought that would be the most comfortable, but it was so uncomfortable when I would have the contractions. I hated it so much. So anyway, you got to do what is most comfortable for you. And mine was basically like a squatting position. So when I came in here and they were about 3 minutes apart, I kept having the urge, like to go to the bathroom, like a bowel movement. And I just felt all this pressure. And that day, I don't know if it was the day before or that day, I started feeling like there was a head pushing down lower. I started waddling a little bit more, and I just was feeling a lot more pressure. But when I came in here, the contractions were about 3 minutes apart. It was very, like, I felt like I could go sit on the toilet and go to the bathroom. And this is where I made a mistake. Okay, so my contractions were getting more and more intense, and I kept just moving positions. Now, what I was expecting from past experience, which I won't get into right now, from my other births, or from what I just know of birth from my research and from watching other people, is I was expecting a fetal ejection reflex, meaning like an uncontrollable desire to push. That's what I was waiting for. I was just basically waiting for my body to take over and push the baby out. I had that with my third child. I couldn't stop it. It just happened. I wasn't medicated when it happened. She just came out. I couldn't stop. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. It just kind of happened. This time, I never got that urge, even though I waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. It never ever came. And the research I did after I had the baby was that when you have that pressure, like you feel like you have to go to the bathroom, like poop, that is a sign of feeling like the bearing down, like needing to bear down, needing to push. And what I think is that when I came in here, sometime within the first hour and a half that I came in here, I could have started pushing, and I wouldn't have gone through the last hour and a half that I was in here, which was the worst part. So I obviously cannot prove that, but everything that I'm looking at online, everybody's like, oh yeah, you're just going to get to this point that you have this uncontrollable urge to push. Never happened for me. But I did have that pressure, and I felt like I really, really had to go, but I never tried. I think I might have tried pushing like a half of a push, but I was a little bit scared that I was going to be too early and like swell down there and then not be able to push the baby out or something like that. Because they say that if you push too early, you can like swell your cervix, and then you can't get past it, or the baby can't get past it. So anyway, so I waited. So my contractions kept getting closer and closer together until they were 3 minutes apart, 2 minutes apart, 1 minute apart, 2 minutes apart. Okay, so that was the very end, was 1 and 2 minutes apart. They were right on top of each other. They were lasting a minute long, about 56 seconds long or so. And they were excruciating. I've been induced with Pitocin 4 times, and or at least given Pitocin at some point in the labor process 4 times. And when I was given it, those contractions were so terrible. I felt like I was in hell, especially if the epidural wasn't working. And if you ever get Pitocin, I would recommend getting an epidural because it makes mechanical, horrible contractions that are terrible. But at the very end here, no Pitocin, just regular oxytocin from my body producing it as a hormone, telling my brain that it is, in labor and giving birth. I started having Pitocin level painful contractions that just felt like the inside of my body was being shredded. Like it felt like I was being crushed from the inside out. It was hard to breathe. It was no breaks. I think I was scaring my husband. I know I was scaring my husband. It was scaring me. because I knew it's just me and my husband here at our house. Yes, we could call the emergency services. They're 3 minutes away from us. But I knew that I was going to be forced into an ambulance. I was going to end up on my back with no epidural. And I was going to be in a place that I didn't feel safe in. And it was uncomfortable. And there was all these people around. And I'm naked. And I would much rather stay here and finish it. Even if I was scared out of my mind. Feeling like, where is this ejection reflex that is supposed to be happening? So in my state of panic in my mind, thinking, I don't want to die. I feel like I'm in hell. This is so painful. This reminds me of Pitocin contractions. And I don't have an epidural. And this is up to me. And why is my body not pushing? I'm thinking through all these things as this is going on. And this is about an hour and a half span of time-ish, maybe 45 minutes, where it was just super, super intense and I didn't know what to do. And my poor husband, oh my goodness. So yeah, it was just us. And I felt so bad afterwards because in hindsight, I never would have wanted to put my husband in that position to feel that vulnerable and not know what to do and feel helpless when your wife is sitting there and is going through all this pain and you just want to keep her safe and the baby safe and you don't know what to do and she's struggling. I feel really bad for putting him in that position. And I just wish we would have been able to have somebody here, even if they didn't have anything to do with the entire pregnancy, but they were just standing here reassuring him that I'm okay, or saying, hey, it's time to push, or something like that. Like, I wish I had done that for my husband, and I feel bad that I didn't. But I can't go back now. I would not recommend a completely 100% unassisted home birth. Before I thought, it's going to be fine. I don't know why everybody says that. Now I know why they say that, because every birth is different. You don't know what's going to happen. And when you're in that moment and you can't respond and you're in a lot of pain, it's nice to have somebody there, or it would have been nice to have somebody there that knew what was going on, was a licensed medical professional somewhat in some way, not just somebody that says they're a doula, somebody that actually knows medical, training. I'm sure some doulas have some training or whatever, but experience with birth that can reassure your husband and yourself that everything's okay, you're looking good, you're doing the right thing, everything's gonna be fine. I wish I had that for my husband this time. That's my big regret. But as far as pushing, I wish I would have started pushing earlier, because when I finally got to that place in my mind that I was like, I feel like I'm gonna die. This is so painful. And I feel like I can't breathe. I can't sit up. I'm just collapsing. I don't know what to do. All of a sudden I thought, why don't I just try to push and just see what happens? Because I don't have any other options. I can't move. I can't stand up. We can call the hospital, but I'd rather just try. And so I tried to push. Nothing happened. I couldn't feel anything. I didn't feel the baby moving, like down the canal or anything like that. The canal is what it's called. Down the slope. I don't know. I couldn't feel the baby moving when I pushed. Anyway, and so I knew that during a contraction, you could push during the whole contraction, but I was pretty much having them solidly back to back for a whole minute. So I just kept trying. I pushed a second time. Nothing. The third time I pushed, I really, really, really dug deep. And I pushed as hard as I could. And all of a sudden, I could feel something moving. And obviously, it was a baby descending. And I could feel it. And I started feeling that ring of fire. I've heard people talk about that. I've never felt it before. I had a natural birth with my third child. And I never felt it during that. I don't know what that means, but I just didn't feel it at all. I was sitting up in bed when it happened, and her head just started popping out all on its own. I never never felt a ring of fire, but it felt like this like ring, and it felt like it hurt, but it wasn't terrible. It felt better to push than it did to not push. And I pushed through that ring, and I felt the baby's head come out. And it was just one push, probably took me like 10 seconds or something like that. It was very fast. Then, because I knew the baby's head was out, because my husband said it was out, and I had felt it go through that ring, and I just was like, all right, here we go. And right again, I pushed again, and the baby's whole body came out. Like, it was very, very quick. I am so thankful that I decided to start pushing. I believe it was the Lord, honestly, because I was so delirious. I believe he was like, push, please push the baby out. Gave me that thought, because it is the grace of God that I did not just sit here and die not pushing. I was so expecting my body to want to push, and never ever got there. I had to decide to push, and I'm so convinced that if I had been pushing an hour and a half earlier, when I started feeling that pressure down low, that was the baby's head. And I think if I would have started pushing then, who knows, maybe I would have had the baby a whole hour and a half early. It would have been like a miraculous labor, because it was barely painful. I mean, it was starting to get painful, but it was just like nothing compared to what I was experiencing when I actually did push him out. Anyway, he came out and he started crying instantly. The placenta cord was very short. I was really shocked at how short it was. They picked him up and put him next to me, and it was like tight, and the placenta was still inside me, but it was just kind of like tight, like I could barely get him up next to me. And then I've heard with the placenta, my pain stopped immediately. It was amazing. I was just so relieved to not be in a living hell of contractions. I think maybe it was like 10 minutes. All of a sudden I started feeling like a cramping, and I just slightly pushed a little bit, and the placenta came right out. We weren't sure. I know that they say that placentas could take like 20 minutes to up to like a couple hours. Mine came out super fast, just with the next little cramping. I pushed it and it was fine. It was all intact. The bag was intact that the baby was in, like the water amniotic sac was all intact, except for the little hole that he came out. Oh my gosh. It's so crazy. I have never looked at my placenta before. I've never looked at any of that before. It was amazing seeing it and thinking like he lived in that for 9 months. It makes me want to cry. It's so strange. But I'm just so thankful for my husband. He did an amazing job. He was so excited when the baby got here, and he was so relieved. And I felt so bad for putting him through that without someone being here to reassure him. But I just didn't know. So I'm trying not to beat myself up about that. I didn't foresee him having to go through that by himself and being the only adult in the room that was like not experiencing it and having to make decisions. And I would never ever put him in that position again. But it worked out. Henry is healthy and I'm healthy, doing really well. Now, I have not seen a doctor since. We were really careful watching for excess hemorrhaging or anything like that. I'm doing really well. Having not enough sleep was kind of touch and go there for the first couple of days. But once you start catching up on sleep and your milk comes in, if you're breastfeeding, you start to feel so much better once you get more sleep. And my chest was really tight the first couple of days, but even in my hospital births, that would happen. And they said that was totally normal. You have blood loss and you were screaming and, your body was working really, really hard. You just basically got in a car accident. Your body did all these crazy things and shifted all around, and hormones are changing, and blood loss and all these crazy things. And your body is in need of recovery, and it's going to hurt and be sore. And One of the things that was the hardest after the birth was the pains of the uterus contracting. And I just want to recommend, if you're having issues with that, I did take ibuprofen, even though I don't like to take any kind of medication. I took ibuprofen once every 4 hours, and that really, really helped with the pain of the uterus contracting back to its normal size. But one thing that really helped with it too is drinking as much water as I possibly could drink. I could tell the second I got enough water in me, it would stop hurting. And it's the same with cramps. If you're having your period, that has always helped me too. Little tip, chug water when you start your period. It will help so much with cramps. I am so thankful to the lady that told me that several years ago, because I had horrible, horrible, horrible cramps every time I had a period for my whole life, ever since I was 13. And when I started drinking an excessive amount of water as soon as I start my period, it would completely make my cramps go away, and it was like I was just dehydrated. Well, it's the same thing with this. You're bleeding a lot, you're cramping, and if you drink a lot of water, for some reason, it helps those after birthing pains. So anyway, so that is my birth story. I'm sure there's other things I could have mentioned, but I just wanted to share it because I want people that are considering doing a home birth to know that it would be best. It would be best if you had someone present that is a medical professional. Don't do it by yourself. Don't have your spouse be in charge unless they are a medical professional. Just pay what it takes to have somebody there. They don't have to be super crazy involved. They can just step back and, just be there as a help when you want it. But just having their presence would be so great for you and so great for your spouse. So I just want to say that I hope that this helps you if you are considering having a home birth or a wild pregnancy. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and I would be happy to answer questions if I can. Again, this is not medical advice. I am not a medical professional. I'm just sharing my opinion and my experience on these things, and I would 10 out of 10 do this again for sure. Have a wild pregnancy and a home birth. I would just have, like I said, a medical professional there present, like a midwife. Anyway, thank you for watching, and Henry says goodbye. He's so sweet. Anyway, I'll see you next time.